Zayin. Rabbi for bringing of the Previous Lubavitcher Rebbe Shmini Atzeres and Chaster Tafres Tzaddik Dalet. And the Previous Rebbe, interestingly enough, is going to relay discussions he had with Chassidim Tmimim, and interestingly enough, the suggested tirutzim that their Yetzer Hara feeds them in order to wiggle out of the responsibility of establishing shiurim, public shiurim, and nigla and chassidus. And the Previous Rebbe moves on to describe the tremendous responsibility and power that a chassid has to create a surrounding, to machna sviva. Says the Previous Rebbe, as es kommt echad manash, when one of our anash comes, maybe a talmid of Tmimim from a shtetl, and I ask him, do you learn chassidus? Or is there a zman kavua, a set time, a fixed time for learning nigla and chassidus and nigla in shuls? So there are those that respond, there's no one to learn with. So I ask Vaita, is that taka? Is that true? There's no one to learn with? So they answer me, there is 1, 2, possibly 3. He says this is an answer for learning chassidus barabin, that parenthetically, wrongly so, but could be perceived as an addition. Says the Previous Rebbe, nu, abrashir gemara, siman in Shulchan Aruch, v'chulu, and Vaita, they give me the same response. There's no one to learn with. So he says to the Previous Rebbe, if you would put in the effort, there would gather around you 7, 8 people that would want to learn, and possibly even a minion. Says the Previous Rebbe, it is my responsibility and obligation to notify and proclaim that all those that try to slip out of that responsibility with the teretz that there isn't who to learn with, they carry upon themselves a very big, a great and heavy burden of responsibility. They need to know this. That the truth is that if you find yourself in a small shtetl, in a small yishuv, township, where there are no bnei Torah, so the person that has that will and that sensitivity, he's in tune, he could create out of this place and accomplish there should be limud barabim. Our experience has showed us, says the Previous Rebbe, that if even one person, he places himself in the inyan to be ma'oire, to awaken and arouse others to want to learn publicly, that gets accomplished. It's a goal that could be met. Each one, says the Previous Rebbe, even a very simple yid, is very, very garen. He's yearning to hear of our Torah. With joy, he would want to hear a Maimer Azal, an Agada, a Medrash, even a Din, a Halacha. There are those that want to hear of our Chassidus. It depends only on the person awakening them, and that person has to lign in them. He has to place himself in it, and then that accomplishes. And the responsibility lies upon each one of Anash and Talmidei Atmimim. Says the Previous Rebbe. Each one should remember the 2 Mamar Razal. One that sustains or keeps alive. And one soul between Yid, it's as if he established and, so to speak, gave vitality to a complete world. And another Maimer Razal that Kol Malamed as Ben Chaver Torah keep Malam Kaskil. A person that teaches the son of his friend Torah, it's as if he actually brought him into this world. He gave birth to him. So the Previous Rebbe points out, if you note, it doesn't say Kol Makayim Nefashis. It doesn't say in the plural. Someone that gave life, so to speak, to a few people, or taught a few of the sons of his chaverim. Rather, nefesh achas and ben echad, whether it's one soul, the expression, or one son, that is considered a complete world. So, even if theoretically, the figure I was pointing out, even if theoretically you don't have gathering around your own minyan, and it doesn't formulate a rabbim, still, it's a oilam oli, it is a rabbim. Previous Rebbe continues, Kvi yisidim la Torah barabbim. Establishing a fixed times for learning publicly. These are the Eitz Chaim, so to speak. At the beginning of the Farbrein, the Previous Rebbe discussed that there are the handles, the wooden handles of Torah, which give life. So he says these are the Kviyas Itim, that's the Atzei Chaim, that each one has to hold on throughout the entire year, to grasp Ruchnis, to hold on to his Chaya Nefesh. He said in such circumstances, when they have a shear to hold on to, and they're holding on to Atzei Chaim, then the Torah rejoices with us. Then it's going to be the type of Simchas Torah that not only we rejoice with the Torah as the Frierdiker Rebbe began this Farbrengen, but also the Torah rejoices with us. It's clear, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, Bar Adavar, that a person that will apply himself to awaken others, to have Kviyas Sittim, to fixed times for learning Barabim, the Eibishter will grant him success in his physical needs. And in Yanam Agashim, the Torah Akdosha does not remain a Balchoiv, does not remain in debt. It will pay back to the last dime. And Torah, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, is referred to as Torah's Chesed, the Torah of kindness. Because Torah is always, not only when you're in need, the Torah continuously, so to speak, begs for compassion for Yidden. And therefore the Torah is referred to as Koishel Bracha, a cup of overflowing blessing. It begs by Hashem Yisbarach to give abundance for all Yidden. And the person that Lake Zachavek, he applies himself and to be ma'orer, to awaken and push others to establish times for Limud Torah, Barabim, Torah will bring him a tremendous amount of good, begashmis and beruchnis. Ois Ches. Frierdiker Rebbe now turns to discuss the great thanks we have to offer to the Eibishter for giving us the light of Previous Lubavitcher, the light of Chassidus. Ashevach vayda, praise and thanks, a debt of gratitude we have to the Eibishter for revealing the light of Chassidus in general, which is the Previous Lubavitcher that he gave us a glimpse, and for Gili Moir HaRabbeim, and revealing the luminaries, the essence of the Rabbeim. And this is, in general, says Kedushas Rabbeinu HaKadoshim Befrat, and specifically our forefathers in the Sim of Chabad. Says the Frierdiker Rebbe, every Sheva Vayda, when one offers thanks to the Eibishter in gratitude, he has to spell it out in clear words, and in a way that each word shines and is heard clearly, distinctly. Says the Frierdiker Rebbe, therefore, he says the following words: Baruch Elokeinu, blessed is our God, Asher Sam Chelkeinu B'chaim, that He has placed our lot, our life, in the lot of life. It says with B'chaim, in the light of life. We find ourselves in Olam Hazeh, but specifically in the Doiris, we are born into the generations where the light of Chassidus is in a kav of Gilui. It's, so to speak, in a state of revelation. And the Moir of Rabbeim is in a kav of Gilui. The luminaries within the Rabbeim is also in a kav of Gilui. And the Moir HaRabbeim is in an oifen of eskalos. It's also in a revealed way. I mean, their style is a style of revelation. Which means, if I could just point out the difference between these three, the Oirach Chassidus Be'etzem, as we're going to see, initially was concealed. The Eibishter gave the ability that it should be revealed, and gave the ability that Rabbi Seinu should be have the possibility of being revealed, and then they should be in a state of his galus. They should seek to draw themselves to Kirav Amoir Elanitzes, as he's going to point out. So he says, Chassidus and Rabbeim, they existed, they predated us from the days the Eibishter created Adam, upon the earth. There was Chassidus, obviously there was Primus Torah existed, and there were Rabbeim. How do we know? Because the first man, which was created in this world, was a Chassid. The Gemara in Erev in Daf Yud Chesam says, Adam Rishon Chassid Gadol Haya. He was a great Chassid, which implies that he had the sense of a Chassid and a Rebbe, but it was without playing out necessarily, until we'll see the Eibishter revealed within us the Chassid Shabbat and the Chassidus that was hidden, embedded in the Torah. He says, in every generation there were Rabbeim and there were Chassidim. However, this was all in a Seder of Nistar, of concealment. There were Tzadikim that were Nistar and they were hidden, hence no one benefited in a revealed way from them. They were just their Inyan. Till the Eibishter revealed a kav of Gilui, so to speak, opened a crack of revelation, that there should be Rabbeim and should be Chassidim, and it should be revealed within both of them. And he was Megalatas, the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, that seeked to reveal his Torah. From the day, the Yom HaBar, in which the Baal Shem Tov was revealed, Chayelol, as discussed earlier on in the Farbrengen, it began to shine, the light of Chassidus in a revealed way. And it began, what began was the kav of his galus hamoyer. It should be revealed. The luminary should be revealed, and kiruv hamoyer al nitzutz. The luminary actually seeks to draw near the nitzutz, the individual spark. He's a neshama klolis, is a mo'er. Till the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, and even a period within his lifetime, they were Rabbeim and Chassidim. However, they were Nestarim, as we mentioned. They were concealed. With the galus of the Baal Shem Tov, was revealed the Ilana de Chaya, the tree of life, initially sourced and rooted in the tree of life that gives Chaya, the true life that the Abishah created in Eitzagan, in Gan Eden, with many branches of more Rabbeim and Ma'ori Yisrael, the luminaries of Klal Yisrael between the Yidden. Everybody knows the pneumistic explanation to the wording of Rabbi Yehuda Leib HaKoyin in his approbation, his Akdama, in the Askama that he wrote for Tanya. And he wrote, V'ka'es Yismach Yisrael will now be able to rejoice B'golas Divrei Kodsher when his holy words are revealed. And he alluded to the fact that this is the real simcha for Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, that this revealed the light of Chassidus. The Rebbe with Gilu Teres Chassidus Chabad, he opened a new world for Chassidim. However, the Rebbe's Chassidus, referring to the Alter Rebbe, it's just Torah Shebiksav. It has to be unpacked. It's Gadol Abayim Mahol Ma'oid. The Eibishter is great and praised. He gave that the Eibishter gave us this amazing gift, and he gave us Rabbeim, through which he gave us the opportunity. They should explain to us the Torah Shebiksav of the Alter Rebbe. Our Rabbeim, they opened before us, and they continuously open. Mayanas Tahaim Rabbah, the springs of the mighty depth of the earth, which means the depth, as the Frierdiker Rebbe explains, of the Haskalah, of the intellect, and grasping the knowledge of the Eibishter, which is more intellectual, Yediyas Elokus, and Avodas Hashem Yisbarach, which is more emotional. And the depth of our hearts. In addition, they open before us the doors in all the Olamais above to the highest of all the levels that we should be able to have. And note here, the Frierdiker Rebbe gives us the Yisai that the Alter Rebbe intended with Chassidus Chabad. After the entire bracha, he thanks the Eibishter for giving us our Rabbeim and Teres Chassidus. Says the Frierdiker Rebbe, the intention was we should have a hasaga sichlis, intellectual grasp, and it should be in the most tangible and, so to speak, physical way that we can relate to it, despite it being in Getlichkeit, about Ruchnis. We should have a tangible grasp on Ruchnius, and this carries in, the Rabbi Seinu, they carry in a godly candle into our fleischige chumristige Welt, into our physical course and the bodily world. And they show us the fusion of this lowly world with the supernal worlds, the Hoicha Olamais. Now this Nekuda is really the beginning of the next ice as well. The Frierdiker Rebbe now established that the goal of the Alter Rebbe was that we should be able to and the following Rabbeim, we should be able to connect with and have a physical, so to speak, appreciation and a tangible connection with God, with the Yediyas Elokus, with higher Ruchnistic understandings. And the next Ois test is going to describe how it is Bechlal possible, and the process to connecting with and intellectually connecting with the Ruchnistic Inyanim, which are essentially limitless. How does one hold on? How does one grasp it? Ois test. The Frierdiker Rebbe is now going to deliver a fascinating presentation, defining the difference between how one understands Gashmias to how one understands Ruchnias, and the difference between them. He's actually going to define to what degree one is able to understand Ruchnias, because seemingly we can understand only Gashmias. When we understand something, we see and visualize, conceptually we can visualize the limitations and the parameters of even a svara, but in the physical realm, something we can relate to. That's how we understand it. How bechlal is it possible to relate to something that's limitless? What do you hold on to? So he's going to define what type of understanding one is capable of having in Ruchnias, and then describe the progression that it actually develops. One can get closer and gain more clarity. and he actually concludes with a vart of the Rebbe Rashab, which tells us that if one applies himself to Ruchnius, his mind and his neshama will continue delving deeper and connecting this haskalah to him even more, even when he's not cognizant, not conscious of it. Let's see it inside. Dr. Previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. Ala Basin, it's known to all as the Geder HaRuchni. Defining spirituality is very different than defining physicality. He says, as we discussed in the Mamarim of this Rosh Hashanah and Yom Tov, that Yom Tov Rosh Tzadik Daled, the Ramasla, Chiluk Hashem Hamoy, and Yichayim Yamayim, that us Nivroim, us creations that are Baalei Chaymer, we're physical beings, we don't have any hasaga, no real grasp in Ruchnis, something that's spiritual. He says, however, what we do have, he refers to it as a hash'ara, as an estimation, an assumption. And this estimation, when one delves and ervetzich in them, it slowly formulates in his mind a tzir that he can sort of have a definition of it. But the Previous Rebbe is going to say that you should know, I wouldn't refer to that clarity that the hash'ara brings forth into a tzir. I wouldn't refer to, says the Previous Rebbe, as a hasaga, as grasping, the way one grasps a piece of information begashmis. He says, what it really is it's the clarity of what you don't know. And he unpacks this. He says, just like when one understands something, so there are definitions to what it means to understand. And it's a specific tzir. This is the formula, and this is the form of what he would consider understood. In the same vein, there's a definition to what is not understood. This he doesn't understand. And when he could define what is not understood, it's not just an empty question, then that itself is a form of clarity. Previous Rebbe gives an example. He says, L'dugma, the difference between an ish pashut, a simple man that doesn't understand the sugya in the Gemara, never opened this Gemara, to a lamdin that has a question in the sugya, he understands the rest of it, that this specific detail he doesn't understand. So even though both of them don't understand this specific detail, and both of them, so to speak, don't have complete clarity in the whole sugya, says the Previous Rebbe, it's a world of difference, it's different totally. He says the simple person doesn't know anything. He doesn't even know what he doesn't know. As opposed to the lamdin, he doesn't know this detail, but still he knows what he doesn't know. Which I would refer to, says the Previous Rebbe, as a clear not understanding. Clear nidvisin. Their clear nidvisin, you should know, says the Previous Rebbe, is also knowledge. It's also clarity, and that actually leads him towards a hash'ara, an estimation or an assumption of what the Gemara is going to answer. It leads him in the direction of the answer, let's say by process of elimination, and he gets direction from it. He feels he's starting to get clarity about that detail that he has a question about as well. So he says, us physical beings, we know Ruchnius. But he says, what does it mean we know? We have ash'ara, we have an estimation of Ruchnius. How do we assume what Ruchnius is? By understanding our own Ruchnius, through our feeling and our relating to our koiches hanefesh, the powers in our soul, are the asa midas. And even though the koiches hanefesh, that itself we don't either really grasp. Why? Because they are also Ruchnius. However, it's known to us. What does it mean it's known to us? And the Previous Rebbe is going to define that. He says, there's a difference between knowing and what we mean when we say you grasp it, you know it b'hasaga, or something is known to you. What does it mean it's known to you? So he says, something that's known, something that you grasp, the thing itself is what's known to you. You go over to it directly, you know its details, you break it down, you actually understand what's before you. You can envision it. As opposed to something that's known to you, it becomes known to you through something else. Okay? And he says that's a tremendous difference if you know something directly through the concept itself, or if you have to know it through something else, which he refers to as, in that case, it's known to you, so to speak, retroactively. He says, for example, we know Ruchnius through our koiches hanefesh, by relating to our Ruchnius. Ruchnius itself we don't understand. And not only that, koiches hanefesh, being that they're also Ruchnius, the koiches hanefesh we don't either fully grasp, rather we can understand through its manifestation, the way it plays out in our experience. That's how we connect it. And B'meila, Ruchnius as well is known to us. That's the second step. After the estimation, he can connect with it on an emotional level because it's known to you through your experience of your koiches hanefesh. And the Previous Rebbe says there's a tremendous difference in the way a person feels when he grasps something to when something is just known to him, but he doesn't have the straightforward clarity in being able to break it down and define it because it's beyond his grasp, because it's ruchnius. He says, Bavust, when something is known to you, it doesn't mean yet that you have full handle over it. Ajabe, it causes tsar. He says, just like hasaga, when someone grasps something, it causes tremendous delight and enjoyment. And in the same vein, when someone does not know with the full clarity, this causes tsar, causes pain and agmas nefesh, discomfort. He says, as one can see factually, that someone that understands a gishmak haskala that causes tremendous joy, is b'simcha gdola, and he becomes so even like full, satiated, content with his being when he has that clarity. As opposed to, and the opposite is in a case of when someone does not grasp it fully, this causes pain, tsar rav. However, says the Previous Rebbe, despite all this, when something is known to you, you can get closer to it. You already do have some form of connection and relationship with it. And the Previous Rebbe says it gives you a hope, a tikva, that maybe you'll be zoichet to understand, which, the way I understand it, it's if you refine yourself, you'll be able to have a deeper understanding and connection with ruchnius. You get closer to it. And now the Previous Rebbe is going to present a fascinating word the Rebbe Rashab told him that tells us that actually the ruchnius continues working on its own, and the seichel as well. Once you start delving into the haskala, the Tatav Me'amal Gezakt. My father once told me a hezber nekuda means a point in the concept of hasaga that will give us a door, a window into what it means to understand ruchni. He says that, or to understand ruchni. The following is the heilige words of the Rebbe Rashab. Seichel sich, wenn du hörst nicht euch. The seichel continues seicheling sich, continues deepening the intellect, even when you're not cognizant and not conscious of it. Says the Previous Rebbe, he unpacks it. Geder Gashmi, the definition of something physical, it has limits to it. Sometimes it's betnua, so sometimes it's in motion, and it's in a shvunk of growth, and sometimes it's stationary, it's settled, it stops. And that's because in general, Gashmis has limitations, and it will end at some point. However, Ruchnius is alive, but it has no limit, it has no stop, it has no hafsek, it's continuous, it's limitless. And with this introduction, the Rebbe Rashab explained Maimar Zohar. The Zohar says that Gan Eden astimu b'layla, Taran de Gan Eden astimu b'layla. The doors of Gan Eden close at night, and the Previous Rebbe says this was mentioned in the Maimar Tiku, the Shofar that was said this year, Tafir Tzaddik Dal. And he said over there we explain that the fact that Taran de Gan Eden astimu b'layla, what does it mean the doors of Gan Eden are closed at night? That refers to the Darga of Malchus, in which the Pnimius of Malchus, the inner part of that sphera, gets elevated and gets removed from, so to speak, being invested in this world, and therefore it's considered like the door is closed, it's removed. And then what happens to the Chitzonis of the Malchus, the outer part of the sphera, it's referred to in a Kabbalistic terms, Ragla Yerdas. Its feet go down, so to speak. It lowers itself to be Mevar Berun Debiyah, to refine and to elevate and to clarify the sparks that are invested in the lower worlds. Because we know Malchus connects, it's the connector between the higher illness and the lower illness. Malchus Atzilus becomes Kasset Labina. So, the Previous Rebbe explains that what this is all in a Ruchnistic Adaga called Malchus. What does it mean in our Neshama? So he says, the Inyan in Neshamas of Gan Eden, what is a Neshama doing in Gan Eden? There is a process to it. It's Yelchu Michael Al-Chayv. They continue growing. What do they grow? What happens there? So the avoid of the neshama with itself is to derher and to internalize all the oiris and giluim which were revealed to her due to her avodah throughout her life, but it should become more and more personal and pneumistic in the neshama itself, because again, the higher it goes, the more, and on a more refined level, it can internalize what it already owns, so to speak. So he says, because the neshama is a pnimi be'etzem mahusa. A neshama is a internal being. It tries to connect and in a truthful way. And every pnimi, his entire inyan is to reveal internally what he has. And that's the inyan of stimas haneshama, the hainu avodah pnimis. So it's a little cryptic, but what the Rebbe Rashab is saying, that in the way the Friedrich Rebbe is explaining it, the way the neshama has this type of elevation and siluk like Malchus has, is when the neshama is removed from, so to speak, anything outwardly, and it removes itself and it's invested totally in its primis to connect. Now, to understand the concept of the Mailas Aliyah, in general, the Aliyahs, the elevations that the neshamas have, and it's the Aliyah that is nostalgic. So he explains the concept of neshamas at tzaddikim in this world, what happens when they go to sleep. That they have this tremendous elevation, this tremendous aliyah, that grants them more and more life. And similarly, when the neshama delves into itself, which on one hand is like a siluk, like malchus, but asher mizeh yuvan, through this we'll understand the mikoshkein, what happens when the neshamas go up to Gan Eden, this siluk. Now the Friedrich Rebbe, and it's all very, very cryptic, the Friedrich Rebbe says, l'chura, there are two problems with this. Two questions one could ask. In Malchus, the inyan hastimus, we said that it, so to speak, gets removed and closed, is that the pnimius goes up to a higher level, and the chitzonius goes down to biyah, as we said about Malchus. However, b'neshamis, we said the inyan hastimus is that the pnimius of the neshama goes and gets deeper into itself. So, first of all, what happens with the chitzonius of the neshama? It seems like the chitzonius of the neshama has to be doing something mirroring Malchus. And Beis, the second question that's problematic with what the Friedrich Rebbe just explained, is that being that the gates of Gan Eden get closed by night, what does that mean in the world of neshamas of tzaddikim in time of their sleeping? What gets closed? What doors are locked before them? And the Friedrich Rebbe ends off with two lines. He says, the Rebbe Rashab explained that his damnus, or I think the meaning over here is that he's mitzdamen. The fact that the neshamas find themselves in Gan Eden is really in Heichalos, not in the spheres of Gan Eden, rather in the chamber of Gan Eden. And Alzeh, so I'm going to explain it based on what I know from Perek Lamed Tes in Tanya. There is the spheres of each world are the Eibishter manifest in that world, and the Heichalos are, so to speak, the effect it has, that anyone that raises itself, that any being that raises itself to that level, even the parts of himself that are not really unified completely with the Eibishter, like the mitzvah becomes one with the spheres of that oilum, Atzilus of Bria, but the rest of one's neshama is not necessarily becomes one with the Ein Sof, but it hangs out, so to speak, in that Heichal and takes on that flavor. And what the Rebbe Rashab seems to be saying is that when the neshama of the tzaddik goes up, where's the siluk? That was one of the questions he asked. And what happens with the chitzonius of the neshama? So the siluk is that, so to speak, it's removed from this world. It is in that heichal, and the chitzonius of the neshama, the primus, obviously gets connected with itself and connects with the Likut. The chitzonius of the neshama seems to be doing what he describes in Tanya Perek Lamed Tes. They get and absorb what takes place, the aftermath of the revelations of those dargis, and that's considered the heichal, the chamber of that oilam. Now, how does this fit in here? The Rebbe Rashab is saying that basically, if a person is invested in Haskalah, his seichel will continue working. And he says same too is with the neshama. If one applied himself to connect to the Eibishter, his neshama, there's the part of his neshama that's invested in the mitzvah, that becomes the achtos more with the Eibishter. Even the chitzonius of the neshama gets elevated more and more. It absorbs from the heichel, and therefore it continues happening just like the Seichel. And he says, "Val Zah Yabir Mein Megeder HaRuchni Shenifel Megeder HaGashmi." This is, by understanding this, you understand how the parameters of understanding Ruchnis are different than understanding Gashmias, that there's also a form of progression and getting more refined and connecting more, but it's in a whole different level. It's by removing oneself more from Gashmias, also by doing mitzvahs, and he says some of it is beyond our control even, like Seseichel. The Neshama continues connecting even when we are not, so to speak, conscious of it. It's in the Heichal Lamayla.